I'm Alvina Ling.
And I'm Grace Lynn.
And we're book friends
forever!
We're childhood friends
who grew up to be
a children's book editor
and an author and illustrator. Yay!
Welcome to Book Friends Forever. This is the Teen Book Reviews with Quade Kelley episode.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and at YouTube at bookfriendsforever_podcast.
So as you can tell from our episode title, and if you're watching this on video, you can see our special guest, Quade Kelley. So Quade's mother, Carrie, bid on the Kidlit for Los Angeles auction. I think it was last year to help those affected, by the devastating wildfires. So Quade is the founder of Reading Athlete and co-founder of the Robie Harris Youth Choice Award. He has served as the only youth voice on the SLJ Heavy Metal Mock Newbery Committee and as a Bank Street Youth Reviewer since 2020. He is the youngest member of the Children's Book Committee since it was founded in 1909. So welcome, Quade. So great to have you here.
Welcome.
Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So would you like to introduce yourself a little bit more for our listeners?
Yes, as mentioned earlier, my name is Quade Kelley. I'm 17 years old. I am from San Diego, California. And a little bit about me. I am a part of the Olympic Development Program for water polo. I'm going in my fourth year of participating in that program. I also was the Scholastic Kids press reporter from 2020 to 2023 and was one of the most published reporters. And the fun thing about me is, little small topic about me is I have recently read my new favorite book, which is Theo of Golden. I have 4 copies back there by Alan Levy. But that's a little bit about me.
Great. Are you still in high school or are you graduating?
Yes. I am going to my senior year of high school.
Okay, so you're rising. Are you done with your junior year or are you still?
Yeah, I finished my junior year a couple months ago.
Great.
Oh, so now it's like the big college search now for you, isn't it?
Yes.
Are you spending the summer looking at all different colleges?
Yes, I had the pleasure of visiting college while I was up in Chicago. And that's definitely something that I'm participating in. But I think I'm really focused on a lot of things this summer, some of which are water polo. Club water polo championships are happening in a couple of weeks. Have the absolute pleasure in participating in a Vanderbilt class. It's called the Vanderbilt PTY, a mentor immersion. And so I get to take all my research from the Reading Athlete that I've been doing in 86 states across 26 schools, including high schools and college. And I got to be the only youth presenter at ALA, which was an absolute privilege. And it was always amazing to be at ALA. So
yeah, I would love to hear more about that. But as you know, we catch up with each other's lives first. So why don't we start with Grace? Grace, how have you been? Because I haven't talked to you in a couple weeks, actually.
Yeah, well, not that much has been going on. Hazel, my daughter, is out of school now, and she doesn't have camp yet for a couple weeks, so she's like got a couple weeks free, and so she's just been kind of kicking around the house. So this is really supposed to be my like summer of writing, but it's not as easy for me to write when she's in the house because I kind of feel like, oh, we should spend time together. So like we're baking cookies and we're going to the mall shopping, but in trying to do a lot of work at the same time. Actually, you know what we started doing is so I've never played Wordle or Connections or any of those things before.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I knew I would get addicted. But because she's home, she's like, let's play Wordle together. Let's play Connections together. And so I'm like, okay. And of course, we're having such a good time. I bought a subscription and now we're doing all the archive together. And it's like, I'm so addicted to it. It's like, whenever I'm like at a point in my writing, I'm like, I can't figure out what to do. I'm like, I'll play a game of Wordle. And so it's like really.
So are you just doing Wordle and Connections or are you doing Spelling Bee?
Wordle and Connect? Well, because I haven't ever done it before. We have so many in the archive to do.
Right.
I'm actually really, really bad at Connections.
Connections is hard.
Yeah.
I don't know, Quade, have you ever played these games?
Yeah, I saw a couple times.
Yeah.
Like connections, the reason why connections is really fun for us to do together because like, and we usually do pretty well when it's like me, my husband, and Hazel. But when I do it alone, I probably only get it maybe 50% of the time. Like, but Wordle, I usually get.
Yeah,
So
that's fun. I'm addicted to those games, so I'm with you.
I knew I was going to. That's why I was like, no, no, I don't play that. How about you? How have you been?
I've been on vacation and then also at a family reunion and then also at ALA. So last Sunday, my husband and I flew into Vegas and then we drove to Zion National Park and we stayed there 2 nights and it's so beautiful. I hadn't spent like significant time in Utah and it's so close to California. I don't know why I didn't come. I don't know, So anyway, definitely highly recommend Zion National Park. And then we drove to Bryce Canyon for one night and then to Park City for the family reunion. So in Zion, it's called the Narrows, this hike, which I've seen videos of. And then now I've done it, where you have to hike about a mile, like in a very easy paved hike, and then all of a sudden you're at the mouth of a river, and you're hiking, wading through the river. And I think if you do the whole thing, it's 6 miles out and then 6 miles back. We did 3 miles out and 3 miles back. It took forever because you're walking slowly. I'm so happy that so I posted that we were in Utah and we had did one hike and we were at Zion and then my cousin said, "We're at Zion too," because a couple of us, had decided to go early. I didn't know she was going to be there and she said, "We did the Narrows today. This is what you have to do. You can rent, special boots and neoprene socks and the walking sticks." So we did that. I'm so glad because we knew our shoes would get wet and we just were planning to get our regular shoes wet and then that would have been unpleasant, I think, for the rest of the trip. So that was really great, and it was just so beautiful. We rented e-bikes and just rode all through the park, and you can pretty much ride in the middle of the road because it's closed for cars. So it's just a shuttle and that comes like maybe every 5 or 10 minutes. So you just pull over, let the shuttle go, and then felt like a kid again. And Bryce Canyon was so breathtaking, and
All your
Grace.
photos were so
I
beautiful.
know. I texted you and I said, "Did we come here together?" Because I don't know. It felt a little familiar, but maybe it reminded me of Sedona, which we did go to together. It had the red rocks and
Mhm.
um, yeah, so beautiful. And then the family reunion. So it was about 64 of us, three generations.
Wow.
I had to leave early to go to ALA, but I'm really happy that I had that time there to see, my family and spend time. And my husband was very brave and he said, "I'll stay after you leave." So he stayed even after I was gone and he had fun. Um, and he drove my parents to the airport on the last day, and then ALA, like I just so much, we've talked about living a novel life. I felt like I was gone forever because I was doing all these things, but ALA was wonderful for me. It was mostly dominated by Jill Parker Rhodes, because she was the Coretta Scott King um, author winner, and John Picasso, who won a Pierre Belpré honor for illustration for Invisible Parade. And the book for Joel was Will's Race for Home, just to plug it. And then, of course, the banquet. And Quade, I know you were there. I met your mother briefly. She was in line, and she's like, I'm Quade's mom."
Yeah.
But I didn't get to
Did you
meet you
mention
there.
that? Did you enjoy being mentioned in the speech for fireworks?
I was so surprised. I mean, so Katya, lovely speech, and then I could sense that I was like, oh, I think she's going to mention other Asian American illustrators. So I was pretty sure she was going to mention Grace. So I started recording. And Grace, you were the third name she mentioned. And then, I kept recording. And then all of a sudden she mentioned me. And I was very surprised because I didn't think
Aw.
she would, mention published editors. I mean, there's so many wonderful, Asian women that she mentioned. And this was because she mentioned being the very first Asian
Mhm.
woman to be awarded the Caldecott Medal. Um,
Yay.
yeah, that was really lovely. And then one final thing. So I got back Monday, and then our friends Alex and then her daughter Gray. I've mentioned them before. Gray is my husband's bio daughter. They stayed with us actually for 2 nights. They stayed with us starting Monday night and then Tuesday night. So like I got home and then like a couple hours later they arrived. And last night we went to see a show. They were in town in part because another friend, a mutual friend who lives in Northampton area, Pamela Means, who's a musician, she was in a musical. It's kind of like a comedy musical called One Long Earring. So it's kind of about lesbian life. It was like this lesbian group that has reunited after like 20 years and they're playing a show after not really, interacting. And so it's very funny. I mean, it's not fully my community, but it was really so I probably didn't get all of the jokes. Like there was a song about Lyme disease, and later Alex was like, "Yeah, all of those like big lesbians like have Lyme disease," which is not something I was aware of, but it was
For
still a very
sure.
funny song. Anyway, so that was really great. So they actually just left a couple hours ago. I'm actually taking a comp day today. We're recording this on a Wednesday to kind of help recover. I'm doing laundry. And then our niece and nephew, Balin and Quinn, are staying with us the whole month of July. So they're
Oh my
on their
gosh.
way right now. I told them to be quiet if they come in before I finish recording this. So that'll be fun. Anyway, Quade, how have you been recently?
It was a pleasure to go to ALA. There were so many amazing authors. It was pretty cool to come full circle with Lois Lowry. I wrote her a letter in fourth and third grade um, when I was inspired by Dear Mr. Henshaw.
Wow.
And I had a friend's birthday and he loved The Giver. And so I sent her a letter. In summary, saying my friend loves The Giver. I pretty much don't, but could you send him a book with the signature? And she said yes, and did her response that she does for particularly boys. She said that say they don't like The Giver, which is read it when you're more mature.
Mm.
And so it's pretty full circle to come and meet her in person at ALA and kind of bring together some correspondence I've been having with her since for 8 years now. Um,
So
so that was pretty
did you
So you kept in
revisit?
touch with her.
I sent her an email, and I've also been continuing to write her letters before that. And I wrote her intro speech for the Bank Street. They had a big event in New York, and so I wrote her introduction speech for that. And answering your question, Miss Ling, I did reread The Giver, but you know. I
You
still
still
I still
didn't
have my
like it.
issues. I was very, as a young reader, I actually did love a dystopian. It wasn't actually that, but I had read Slaughterhouse-Five a couple days earlier in third grade, and it was that reality check that I could actually picture the giver happening in real life, where Slaughterhouse-Five was a little, extreme. And I think it scared me. And even as an older reader, I think that reality is something that definitely inspires fear.
Hmm.
And it's so well written. Her book Number the Stars was one of my all-time favorites. And I'm super excited to read her new book, Building 903,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
is coming out soon. Um, but yeah, overall, it was an amazing conference. A lot of other amazing authors, like Philip Steed, TJ Klune, Andrea Davis, Derek Barnes, some of my all-time favorites. So it was amazing to get to go meet them, talk about reviews we've had. Yeah, it was amazing conference. And kind of going back to Lewis Lowry thing, I mentioned earlier, co-chair the Robie Harris Youth Choice Book Award, and her and Robie Harris were very good friends. So it was pretty cool to get to write her intro and, you know, talk to her about naming an award after her friends. So.
Wow, that's wonderful. Had you been to ALA before?
Yes, I had the pleasure of going in 2024 when it was hosted in San Diego, which
Oh, right.
was definitely
Yep.
convenient for me and my family. And I had gotten to do the Newbery that year too, which obviously I really enjoyed the speech, not only from this year, but from 2 years ago as well. Of Vashti Harrison for Big and The Eyes and Impossible. Oh my gosh, author's name is blanking me right now.
I
But
agree
I'm
that
obsessed.
Dave Dave Eggers. Yeah.
Dave Eggers. I'm obsessed with the Newbery.
Hmm.
And so it was amazing to get to go listen to those authors who have inspired me for years and years. And obviously loved it this year. So
That's wonderful. All right. So we want to just dive into, just to start, how and when did you first start reviewing books?
yeah, so I first started reviewing books in 2019, 2020-ish timeline for the Bank Street Center of Education Youth Reviewers Program.
Mm.
So I was about fifth grade, and a teacher of mine had read my reviews I've been doing for class and had been doing, and she recommended this program to me. Um, and at the time, these are much more raw reviews. I didn't have a lot of youth reviewing experience, but I had the absolute pleasure of beginning that program. And, I got to continue working with them. I'm still a young youth ambassador, which happened in about 2023. And I'm honored to be the first youth as a part of the Bank Street Children's Book Committee. And so I get to help make their 100 best books list.
Oh, wow.
And which just came out. It's free, so I highly recommend anybody to go check that out. And yeah, I mean, I love everybody at Bank Street. It was an absolute blast getting to make that 100 best books list, and get to talk about reviews and have those disagreements. And call out to Todd Zinn and Marianne Wolpert, two of the people that have really inspired my journey at Bank Street. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
so I've been doing it for about 5 years now. I also had a blog, had a blog for at Who is Quade. And so, I got to kind of combine those
Hmm.
to set up my future with the school library journal, Heavy Metal Mock Newbery, um, and eventually becoming the first youth ambassador for Bank Street.
So if a teacher recommended you for the program, you must have been a big reader. Is that
Yes, by then I'd become a big reader. I am really blessed. My family inspires reading. But for a period of time, I hadn't been into reading, and a couple things that had brought me back to were AR points. Do you guys know those, the accelerated reader
I've
points?
heard of them.
Uh,
Uh,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
so in fourth grade, my teacher set up an AR points program, and I wanted to break the record for the class. So I was just trying to get through as many books as I could, to get those AR points. But I found that I really began to love reading, and
Mm.
incentivision
It, in,
incent like
incentivic,
Incentivize.
incentive. I was trying to find the
incentive.
right word for it.
Right.
Really brought my love of reading. But in third grade, I think was kind of the first time when I really loved a story. And that
Hmm.
was Wonder by R.J. Palacio.
Oh, yeah.
And it was my teacher had read it to us as a class, and it was the first time I really got to talk about being different. And it was, I think a really key story for me in understanding that books could inspire community,
Mm.
and model vulnerability, which is reading athletes all about.
Wow. That's so great.
Wow. Yeah.
So in a way, it was I think you're probably competitive, and that was what spurred
Yep,
you. Yeah.
totally, totally.
Okay, so you mentioned your blog, and I've seen your posts on the heavy metal blog. Like it's funny because it was later, and I'm like, oh wait, that's Quade. We're supposed to have him on our podcast. What are there other platforms that you post reviews?
Yeah, so I will occasionally have a book pick of the month, and my review will be that for Bank Street.
Hmm.
We kind of already talked about the heavy metal mock Newbery. So you can find any of my reviews from the past 3 years there. And we'll see if I continue to do that in the next year.
Hmm.
And then Who is Quade? There's a book blog section there on that website, so you can find them there.
Hmm.
And it's a little hard because now that I choose awards, it's harder for me to do blogs because those discussions are supposed to be concentrated in that room. So you're not supposed to put out your external biases, internal biases. So it's a little harder to write reviews now, but definitely for the school library journal, you can look at any of my comments on
Yeah.
Newbery books
How
there.
how did you start commenting on the SLJ heavy metal mock
So
Newbery?
I love rubrics. That's something about me as I'm neurodivergent. And I love when you have a set thing and you can grade things based off of that. And I had read The Giver and I had read Number of the Stars in back-to-back days, and both of those won Newberries. And I loved Number of the Stars. I was like, this totally deserves an award. like I was very young when I read both of these, and I read The Giver the next day, and I said, "What in the world? Why? How could the same people choose these two books? One of these is really bad, one of these is really good, in my opinion, right? This
Right.
is when I'm
Yeah,
really
yeah.
young, and it kind of inspired the question, who picks these awards? And that is what inspired me to join the School Library Journal Heavy Metal Mock Newbery, to represent the youth voice, to represent what do kids enjoy. Because when you're talking about reviews, a big part of it is appropriate content and something that an age group would enjoy. And so that was, a really big part of it. And I think also I became a historian of the rubrics before I even joined the School Library Journal Heavy Metal Mock Newbery. So I began to look at all these awards and say, how are they analyzing these things? Um, what inspires them to choose these books? How much of it's personal? And so that all brought me to the School Library Journal, and I wanted to be the first kid on the committee. And I think from a young age, that was kind of my goal to, be on the actual Newbery. But I think being on the School Library Journal was just as amazing of a process for me. But that's kind of how I came to it.
Yeah.
So what do you look for when you review books? I love I love how you said like you love Number of the Stars, you hated you hated The Giver. Like it actually warms my heart because they're both by Lois Lowry and it just shows how they're both really good they're everybody agrees they're awesome quality books, but that doesn't mean like every book is for every person, even when it's the same author. So anyway, but what do you look for when you
I mean,
review?
thank you for asking. That's an amazing question. I think that something that I've really come to learn is how you analyze literary excellence. And I think that's what the Newbery is really all about. And there's a lot of different ways to analyze this. And I think the question I always ask is, where does this book excel and where could this book grow? And the Newbery analyzes it in a couple of categories, with including the thematic development, character development, delineation of plot, and delineation of setting. And a big one for me is the unique and differentiating style.
Mm.
And something I always look for in these books is that unique and differentiating style. How does this book hit each of these criteria? This is specific for the Newbery to tell the story. And each story does it in a different way. So The Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon, I particularly loved the
Oh,
plot.
thank you.
I thought your plot was excellent, and I thought it excelled in the Newbery. And all of it has to come together to answer the question, does this land for readers? And I think one thing that I've really began to understand is there are books that have a very good they succeed in that literary excellence. They're amazing stories. But the question is, does it hit for the reader, the proper age that they're trying to write this book towards? And I think that's kind of where I step in as a youth reviewer because I can tell you, and it's easier for me to talk about it because I am that age range.
Mhm.
Does this hit for the right reader? And so I've gotten the absolute pleasure to, review some of these books and say, yes, definitely, this is amazing for the right reader. Um, yeah, so that's kind of what I look for in a review.
Do you feel that as you're getting older and older, do you feel like you're still able to do that as well?
Yeah, well, I think somebody said something, which is librarians and authors have the kid inside of them, and they are the kid inside of them. And I think that actually, as I've gotten older, it's been easier to find the kid inside of me in a sense. I think I've really transitioned to being able to understand picture books a lot better. Um, I work at the YMCA I've worked there for 2 or 3 years in my region. I was assistant camp counselor and now I'm a swim instructor. And I love working with kids and I can ask their perspectives. And I think it says a lot when you see what they're reading. Um, and I think also, being a part of the School Library Journal has helped me understand to another level how do you connect, that literary excellence and also connect that appropriate content for an age group. And one book that's come out recently is a potion, a powder, a little
Yes.
bit of magic by Philip Steed. I'm raving about this book right now. I think I just read this, and there's been some decent books this year. I haven't been blown away, particularly this year, but I had to kind of sit down I was already sitting down, but I had to go lay down for a sec after I read this one because of how amazing it balances that literary excellence with the age appropriate content, which especially for younger readers is extremely hard to do. And it's really why the art of a picture book is so challenging and why it's so challenging to write a powerful, children's book. Um,
Yeah.
and uh, you know, when it comes to books, I'll always be that wide-eyed kid. So, I mean, I think I always will have that perspective. So,
Yeah.
that's a long answer to your question, but
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd love to hear more about the Robie Harris Youth Choice Award because you said you co-founded it. How did that come about and what is the award?
yeah. So it was born out of the desire to give young readers a louder voice. Robie Harris herself has always been a champion for honest, accessible information for kids. And we wanted to make an award that really reflected that spirit. So I connected with some other individuals in the Bank Street community and wrote some rubrics that were heavily based on the Newbery, Caldecott, Credit Scott King, some other award criteria I'd seen in the past. Um, and I kind of took what I liked from all of them and what I wanted to see more of, which was really that kid's voice, which is why it's a youth choice. So it's all decided by a collection of youth from across the country coming together to really decide this award. We handle difficult topics. So we talk about topics that may be challenging for youth reviewers. And we build it all by hand. So we built it all driven to be understandable as a kid. Um, and we got to select some amazing books. So in 2025, our inaugural winner was Louder Than Hunger by Jonathan Shu.
Hmm.
Um, we thought that the way he handled all of the topics in this was brilliant. I mean, Mr. Shu is amazing himself.
Yeah.
But the literary quality in this book, it really exceeds in that literary excellence. I think the way that it uses the page to its full extent and uses that spacing really drives that impact and the different fonts. And I think it's very personal as a kid that's in that. If you're in that environment, you can really feel it, and it does what books all about. They're all about being a window or a mirror. And our 2026 winner was All the Noise at Once by
Mm.
Deandra Davis. This was an incredibly powerful book. It was all about, an autistic football player, his experience, and also handling racism and a lot of other difficult topics. And I thought that it did a brilliant job for its age range. And I think our whole committee agreed on some of those certain things.
That's great.
So yeah, that's a little bit more about the Robbie Harris Youth Choice Book Award.
So is it just one winner or do you also have honor books?
So currently we just have one.
Hmm.
I think our goal in the future is to expand to hopefully some honors and also separating by age range because right
Mm.
now we are currently just all one age range. That's 0 to 18. So all the noise at once really covers only that upper half of the age range. And I'd say all louder than hunger, maybe a little bit lower, but in broad, obviously. But I think we need to separate that so we can definitely get some younger ages
Hmm.
involved, which Robbie Harris was um, involved. And I
Right.
won't get to decide after 2027 because you can't be we make it so that you can't be over the age of 18.
Hmm.
So we'll move to a younger member to decide
Yeah.
how we kind of continue with that.
That's so
Uh,
great though that you're leaving that legacy of this award. It's
Yeah,
really,
that's amazing.
yeah. Okay, I want to hear about this reading athlete.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. But Reading Athlete was founded to achieve the intersection of mind, body, and story. What we focus on is how we can model vulnerability and build community through the power of books and stories. Um, I founded Reading Athlete when a peer came to me and with suicidal ideation in middle
Mm.
school. And I, at the time, had not had any training from mental health organizations. It really came to me as a shock, and I didn't know how to respond. And my response was giving her a First Time for Everything by Dan Sansat.
Mm.
And later, I found that it saved her life.
Wow.
And that was the moment when I realized the healing power of stories. It had already been working in my life for years, and I hadn't been able to see that, but it came to life at that moment. And so at Reading Athletes, we do student-driven research. Um, on using picture books and reading for student athlete populations. And we obviously focus on performance, which is what they care about as athletes. We also focus on how it impacts their connections, how it impacts their sense of community, and how it generally impacts their general mental health.
Hmm.
And so this spring we did it in 80, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but 86 schools across 26 states in the United States. And this, therefore, we hit an approximate a couple thousand kids. Um, and these kids were specifically in high school and college. We had an amazing amount of responses to our surveys, um, and they were overwhelmingly positive. Kind of as I begin to analyze results and prepare for a poster presentation, we're finding that at nearly everyone is seeing positive benefits after going through these. We call them picture book bibliotherapy mental health interventions.
Hmm.
But it's truly brilliant, and I've been really excited to work on that program. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I'm working on visualizing it in this Vanderbilt mentor immersion class. So that's been an absolute blast.
So
And
I'm a little unclear how it works. So does it do you bring these books to people who are in need, or do you give it into like these books to people in general for
Yeah,
reading?
so it's more of a general thing.
Okay.
We collaborate with we collaborate with Morgan's Message, specifically right now, which is a mental health organization in schools, specifically again, high school, college,
Uh-huh.
um, for participation. Then we also do the Kevin Love Fund, which is a mental health organization more focused on the education and curriculum, which we partner with them where they create education and curriculum for books. Recently, spring, we used When You Dream Big. So Scholastic graciously donated us 350 copies of an pretty much arc When You Dream Big.
Uh-huh.
And so we distributed those copies to student athlete mentors for free across the United States with free education and curriculum, and just requested that they do a survey seeing if it worked. So we gave them step by step on how the process worked. Um, and we let them run it within their schools. And so they did it a diversity of ways. We had individuals go run it in their elementary schools. So they would bring their high school student athletes and have them read to the kids at those schools, which was one of my favorite things we saw.
Uh-huh.
We saw the college kids and most of the teams doing it within themselves. One of the individuals did it in their classroom. So kind of a diversity of worlds, but we essentially are focused on the research, but we provide certain copies, certain books with education curriculum from the Kevin Love Fund, um, and to help them do the reading athlete.
Got it.
So
Got it. So like
is
reading
the
athletes like a franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it's more about building the conditions for reading. I think that we're trying to model, like I mentioned earlier, we're modeling vulnerability. We're trying to create community, and so we need to build the conditions for athletes to read. And so I think. I think that reading athlete is all about really the research. And so we're focused more on that right now. And so it's about getting the
Mhm.
materials for research.
And is the research so is it about like reading before you actually play sports? Like is that where the athlete comes in or is it
Yes.
okay.
So there's a couple different ways we're approaching this. And I think way we see it is athletes are vital to their communities. And
Mhm.
if we can get them to read, we can get other people to read. Um,
Right.
and I
It's
think
like
we do it.
Wembayama at the
Yes,
Spurs
totally.
is a reader. Yeah, and it's great.
I actually was going to bring that up a little later, and I was
Yep.
going to talk about that. But we do both before game, just in during because specifically most of these kids are in school, so just during the school day, before practice, really whatever works best for them because it's like training. Reading's like strength training because you can do it once right before game, and it's not going to really help. But if you do it over a prolonged period of time, it will work. And I mean, with me, what the way I first implemented it with what was with my water polo team at Junior Olympics, which is the biggest competition for water polo in the country. And we had just gone 0 and 2 following a pretty successful couple days, but we had, on the brink of elimination. Um, and I said, let's go try reading athlete. Let's go see if this works. So I brought the team into a Barnes and Noble, and we read children's books. And we won the next game. Woo! That was great. Um, and then I brought a team back. I was like, if this worked, let's try it again. And so, you know, over the
That's
next couple 6 days, we would continue this process. And a little personal thing is three of the guys on my team had lost their dads.
oh,
And they could read the children's books that their dads read to them. And it really created that open space for our team to share. Um, and um, I think that it really helped. And we went on to win the next 6 games, and end up winning the tournament, and the biggest stage for water polo in the country because of the reading athlete. Um, and I do want to come back to something you mentioned earlier. And I kind of mentioned that athletes are like the staple of their community. And we can see that impact through individuals like Victor Wembanyama, AJ Brown, and teams like in the World Cup. And I'll start with the AJ Brown, where he was caught reading on the sidelines. They kind of zoomed in on the broadcast. And the book that he was reading sold millions of copies instantly
right.
because people wanted to read what AJ Brown was reading. And his response to the interview was, "I love reading." And
Yay.
Victor Wembanyama is trying to start book clubs with the Spurs, and he's now recommending books, and those books that get recommended are get seeing very similar, you know,
Yeah. He's an
things,
influencer.
right? It's an influencer, and we see that how the influencing works within social media, but athletes being the champions of reading could really change the landscape that literature and reading in general is going into right now. I can see with my generation, a lot of kids my age don't read,
Yeah.
and I think athletes coming out and talking about their love of reading could flip the script on that. And I
Yeah,
think that's what
that's
reading
great.
athletes about. It's about getting the 35 million student athletes in the country into the library,
Mhm.
and with them, everyone else, with them, the rest of my generation.
Awesome. Oh,
Yeah, that's awesome.
fully in support of that. Well, so you're an athlete, you're in school, you're very involved, it seems, in a lot of, extracurricular activities. Can you give us an example of your typical week? Like, let's say during school, and like how much time does
Yeah.
the book reviewing take?
Yeah, and all these and like the Roby Harris and the reading athletes, it sounds like
Everything.
you're
Are
very
we are we
busy.
talking like last year in terms of school or like years beforehand? Because last year was its own crazy.
Whatever you feel.
I can talk about the last year, which is gonna be
Okay.
very similar to this year. So I took
Okay.
6 APs last year.
Wow.
And so, you know, that's its own thing that I found out about last year, and would de not depend to recommend on what kind of individual you are. Um, but I'd say it's really about time management.
Hmm.
I think it's about getting up early in the morning. That's something that I really had to pick up this year, getting up as early as you can, to go train, your mind, your body. Like reading, that's the writing. That's kind of when I do my reviews. Um, and getting prepared for school. I have the privilege of doing online learning, so
Hmm.
really get knocking it out, getting working hard, learning the information, and then finding that time in between those classes where you need a break to go review. Um, and I think the hard part for me is finding the time to read, because read is definitely, even though I read fast, it's definitely a long
Yeah.
process. I think it's my breathing space. So I had to, create those 15-minute movement and 15-minute reading stations. That's what I call them, where I'll go set a timer and read for that chunk of time, to get that break from school. Um, I actually think tournaments are sometimes the best way for me to read in terms of water polo, because I'll go have a super long water polo tournament on the weekend, and know that in between game time is really when I get to read, on the
Hmm.
pool deck, which, another big part of reading athlete was I was inspired by the fact that people were making fun of me. And I was like, what if we create a community where it's typical for kids to be reading on the pool deck?
Yeah.
And so that has been that's not a really good answer to was my what does my typical week look like? But that's kind of, how you fit in the
Yeah.
time to read and do all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's that's very impressive.
Yes.
Um, okay,
I
what
guess
is
you're
something
not playing a lot of Wordle.
right? What is something you wish all authors and illustrators and editors knew about what teenagers like to read?
Such a good question. Um, oh, it's such a hard thing to answer because I think that my biggest advice would be flexible.
Hmm.
Because I think that kids, each generation of teenagers is changing. If you want to think about it from ages 12 to 18, there are constantly new kids moving into that age range and constantly moving out. So I think just being open to change, expand what's creative. Um, and I think that teenagers, Mm. It's such a good question because every reader is different,
Yeah.
and teenagers are going through a lot of change. And mm, I think that like making it collaborative is another thing that I would say. Like, go listen to the teenagers. And my biggest advice would be to ask their kids
Hmm.
and ask the people in their community, because I think that when you ask, you can hear that. You can hear the joy. You can hear the joy in reading. And when
Hmm.
a book inspires that, that's the right choice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But it is a hard question to answer.
So,
I'm curious. Okay, so you're going to be a senior. You're thinking about colleges. Do you know what kind of career you want to pursue in the future?
yeah, so I love book reviewing and I love doing all of this. But when I'm older, I'd like to pursue a career as a professor.
Hmm.
And the reason, and it sounds very, why am I doing all this stuff, is because I want to teach the psychology of literature. So I want to talk about how reading impacts behavior, observable behavior specifically. And really create research, much like I'm doing for Reading Athlete, to inspire people to read, get people into libraries. Um, and I think the reason that I want to pursue that career is I've heard stories of people talking about teachers making impacts in their life.
Yeah.
And if any of you guys know Lori Santos at Yale, she
Oh, yeah.
inspires all of these
Happiness
kids
Lab.
to, yeah, the happiness tab, totally. Like all of these kids are like following these happiness behaviors. And so, I want to make that impact directly in the classroom, get all these college students reading, which if you guys saw the Atlantic article from about a year ago, they found that under 1 in 6 kids are reading more than I think 4 books in their entire high school career.
Ugh.
And so, inspiring these kids to start reading again for fun, really find that joy in reading. And oh, there you go.
You froze a little bit, but
Uh,
you're back.
yeah. I think that's why I want to pursue that career.
Yeah, that's great.
And I always want to be, in the libraries. So maybe when I'm older, retiring as a librarian would be amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of what
Okay.
I'm looking to
So
do in
you're
the
gonna
future.
go academia and
Mhm.
but would that be psychology, English? Like what?
science, like,
Yeah, it's a really weird balance. And I think that's kind of what I'm finding now is you have to find where's the balance of, studying literature versus studying psychology. Uh, and it's really both. It's very multidimensional
Yeah.
because it's a paradox because one can impact the other and they impact each other in a numerous amount of ways, and you have to fully understand both to see those connections. Because I can tell you about the behavior, what the result is, but I need to be able to tell you why, what in the literature is doing that to the brain, what's changing the way they're thinking.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe also being a writer.
Yeah.
I'm currently working on a book with Emily Barth Isler, all about reading athlete, and I don't want to talk too much more about it. But I want
Well,
to give you that
actually,
little.
that's a good
yeah, that's a
segue
good segue.
to our next segment, which is our fortune cookies segment, which is, just a shorter segment where we just talk about a different topic, but we thought we could talk about what we're working on now. So, Quade, why
Go
don't
ahead and
you?
tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I am really excited to just announce that I'm working on a picture book with Emily Barth Isler. She's amazing. If you've read The Color of Sound or Three Broken Shards of Glass,
Yep. And
um,
Emily was actually a guest on our podcast maybe a year or two ago, maybe.
yeah,
I
she's
don't know.
amazing. Emily's
Yeah.
the best. It's a pleasure to be working with her. I don't feel like I'm the greatest writer myself. It's easier for me to read, and respect to you, Miss Grace, and everyone else who's a writer. That's the hard part. I get the benefits of what you guys do. Um, and we're both. I think it's something about me and Emily's. We're both neurodivergent, and so I think we're really excited to collaborate and come up with something crazy and different. Because that's what apparently writers do, and I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah.
But
And it's about
uh,
your student athlete. Is it nonfiction or is it
The reading
it's gonna
athlete.
be
the
it's gonna
sorry,
be
reading athlete?
like I wouldn't say nonfiction, but it's gonna be something that kids can relate to.
Hmm.
So it's gonna be more like a not necessarily. I don't think a parable is a terrible word for it, but it's gonna be, I'd say, like an inspirational novel.
Hmm.
Have you guys read Caring by Kobe Yamada,
No, not
or
me.
I know
Trying?
her work though.
Yeah, he like, what do you do with a problem? Do you guys remember
Yes.
those?
Hmm.
So it's not necessarily similar, but I would say that it takes a similar twist. It's all about proposing something and creating something inspirational for readers, that they can use to for their own, inspiration is the best word for it, but to help guide their own lives.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's cool. Grace, what are you working on?
Okay, so I am, like I said earlier, this is my summer of writing, and I am working on what we are tentatively calling The Tale of the Goldfish Man, which is another companion book to in the Where the Mountain Meets the Moon um world. But
Hmm.
this one is probably a little bit more of a direct sequel, as takes place, I think, about 5 years after Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. And
Hmm.
if all goes well, it's all everything. I spent like 3 days. I talked about this with Laura on the last podcast. Like 3 days just trying to figure out how everything like weaves together in terms of the timeline. But the premise of this story is that these are the stories that the Goldfish Man tells about his youth. And he tells the story about how when he was younger, he had a very, very, very annoying younger sister that he was put in charge to take care of. And one day they found a magic pot that everything you put in would double. And when he wasn't paying attention, his younger sister got into the magic pot and he ended up with uh, I think 9 extra younger sisters. And so, to get rid of his extra younger sisters, the fortune teller tells him that he has to do 8 great deeds to get rid of his extra sisters. And so, this book is about his great deeds that he had to do to get rid of his extra sisters.
Amazing.
That sounds really fun. How does
Well,
that
I have
sound
a
thanks.
for from a
I
kid
have I have an
perspective?
annoying little sister, so I get it.
That's amazing.
And what are you working on, Alvina?
I'm going to mention two things. So the first, I can't say too much about because it hasn't been announced yet, but I will say it's a cookbook, and
Oh, I'm so
I know, and I've
excited.
never worked on a cookbook before. I have to thank, um, editor, or I think he's editorial director or publisher, Mike Serbin, who's on the adult side, and he oversees Voracious, which is kind of the illustrated adult Little Brown, and they do a lot of cookbooks. And
Uh-huh.
so I've met with him a
Is
bunch,
it
and
kids' cookbook?
I'm not going to say right
Oh,
now.
okay.
And then the other thing, I talked about this before, but John Rocco, his new book, Promise of America, which is about, well, yeah, it's about how we all became to live on this land and be called Americans. And we're kind of doing the final details. We have gotten a lot of authenticity readers and fact checkers, and just trying to get this just right. It's coming out next summer. But there's just so many different moving pieces to this one. So it's kind of been consuming. But so those are the two things I'm working on right now and very excited about.
I really like what I really like the idea of the second one. It reminds me a little bit of American Story by Kwame
Oh
Alexander.
yeah, that's one of our
Uh,
comps that we're using. This one is, yeah, I mean, it's very poetic and yeah, and it covers certain major, not, of course, we can't cover everything, but certain major waves of immigration. But it also talks about, the Native Americans, and it talks about slavery, and then, talks about
mhm,
different waves of immigration as well. Um, and it's very, I think it's very beautiful and very powerful, and it's, I think, also very timely. I guess I'll just mention I'm so glad that the Supreme Court ruled to
Uphold birthright
uphold the
citizenship.
14th Amendment and birthright citizenship, because that's something that we were all worried about. But yeah, it's also interesting because like so much is changing as we're working on this book, and so in some cases, I think John just had it right. Like as 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 of the writing of this author note, like this is what's happening. Like we just know in a year or two
mhm,
everything can change. So anyway, it's a little tricky, but that's what we're working on.
mhm.
All right, so now we'll end as we always do with what we're grateful for. I'll start this week. I think just because I'm back from ALA, I just have to say I'm grateful for librarians, and I'm grateful for the book industry and all the librarians that help get the books to the children who are reading them. So that's what I'm grateful for. Quade, what are you grateful for?
You still mine. I'm gonna make it more general to the
You
reading
can,
community.
yeah.
I think the literature community is truly incredible. I think it's something to always be grateful for when you can sit down and enjoy a good book. However you do that, if that's with a coffee or with a drink, or if that's in your casual reading chair. And for the people that make those stories possible, so all the editors out there, the illustrators, the writers, the poets, for making that possible. Coming from ALA and getting to meet all those people, you guys are all amazing. And then the people that can get those books in your hands, so librarians, the people that recommend and bring the love of reading to our communities,
The
and then
reviewers.
reviewers, and then also my mom, because she was the one that helped me get on this podcast, and she's always the one that, if it's ever in a hard time or I need a good book, she always is a recommendation for me.
Oh,
It's always been my ultimate librarian.
yeah.
So,
Aw.
Well,
uh,
she said that you were the one that discovered the auction and brought the opportunity to her. So I think you
yeah, I don't
you
got a
took
lot of
it
money though,
took
so she
charge.
had to do the auction.
That is true. Grace, how about you? What are you grateful for?
Well, you took one of mine when you talked about the birthright citizenship, because I
Mm.
am super grateful that birthright citizenship was upheld. It's still a little bonkers to me that it wasn't like 9-0, but I think I'd just be grateful that it was upheld, because it seemed like to me such a easy easy decision, but it's a little heartbreaking that it was not so easy of a decision. But at the same time, I am grateful that to me the right decision was made. Um, the second thing I'm grateful for, which I realize I can talk about now, is that the Little Stone Buddha got a starred Kirkus review. Yay!
Yay!
Like
Woo!
I saw pictures at ALA, and they put the star on to show that, and I was like, oh, I guess I can tell people now. So the very first review for the Little Stone Buddha was a star from Kirkus, and I'm really really grateful for that, because amongst authors, Kirkus is kind of known as being the tough one. And and it's nice. And also books, because of the way the world is working, books I feel like are not getting as many reviews either. So it's really nice to get a book review, to get a positive book review, and to have it be a star review, and also from Kirkus. So I'm grateful for all those things.
Yay! Quade, thank you so much for joining us. You're such a great guest.
Yes, thank you.
We'll have you back. You don't have to pay money. Although if you want to
Thank you
donate
guys
to
so
a
much for
good.
having me.
All right. And that was the Teen Book Reviews with Quade Kelley episode. Thanks for joining us. And thanks to Alex at Paceyworks Studio for editing this podcast. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and tell a friend about it.
and tag us on social media using the hashtag BookFriendsForever, or send us a message via Instagram at BookFriendsForever_podcast or via our website, BookFriendsForever.com. And please join our Patreon. The link is in the show notes.
I'm Alvina Ling, and you can find me at Alvina Ling on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. Quade, where can people find you?
You guys can find me at Who is Quade on Instagram. We are currently building the At Reading Athlete platform. And you can also find me at whoisquade.com. That is, just for Who is Quade, that's WHOISQUADE. That's QUADE. If I can find English, is the hard part. So once you get there, like I apparently just did, that's the right link. So it's www.whoisquade.com. So you can follow me there or Instagram.
We'll put the link in the show notes.
Yes, I'll do that.
And I'm Grace Lynn, and you can find me at Pacey Lynn on Instagram and Threads, and author Grace Lynn on Facebook.
Have a great week.
And don't forget to read. Bye.